And we're now live, I believe. So congratulations, everyone. We've made it this far. I know we're one of the latter sessions of the day, but I wanted to sort of kick things off and almost jump straight into it. So quick introductions. So I'm John. I'm with TravelAI. We also have Jeff Kischuk. I even asked you, Jeff, ahead of time, and I got it wrong. Jeff is the CEO of Tripian, with a big, long background in everything from IoT to fintech, a lot of data-driven solutions. And in the podcast that you did with Tony, who we'll talk about in a second, he called you part of the old AI brigade. So we'll delve into a little bit about that. Next up, we have Christian. He's on my right on the screen there. Christian is the founder and CEO of Magpie Travel. And the best way that I understood Magpie, Christian, you can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, was a channel manager for content, which I thought was a very easy way for me to understand that. And last but not least, we have Tony Carne down in Australia, bright and early there. So thanks for getting up early for us this morning, Tony. Tony currently runs Everything AI and Travel, who we've been proudly sponsoring now, not since your start, but for the last few months anyways. Tony, you're definitely also part of the old AI Brigade and Travel with your time at Intrepid and Urban Adventures. But to jump things off, Tony, I'm going to go back to you because you asked this of all your podcast guests. How did you get started in travel?
Yeah, thanks, John. So I was actually kind of born into it. My dad worked in travel, and he was in a small town called Alice Springs in the centre of Australia, and that's where I was born. So, and it's a tourism town, and so like I've just always grown up around travel. And back in those days, travel was expensive. To get on a plane was expensive to do anything. But because Dad worked in the industry, we got all the great discounts that I don't know that they're around anymore, but like the AD 75s and that kind of stuff. So we found ourselves traveling as kids a lot, and I've always been interested in it. That was what inspired me most. That's what I loved. And, it was inevitable, I guess, that I was going to end up working in the industry, and that's how it worked out.
Very good, thank you. So one of the things we talked about in our preamble was the whole concept of collaboration. And we thought a good way to sort of to talk about what is involved in collaboration is to look at both the past, the present, and the future of the industry and of where AI is going to be playing a role into that. So if you went first, Tony, talking about your past, we'll come back to talk about the past of AI, but let's go back to the old guard or the old AI brigade and Jeff, and let's talk about AI of past. And what have you seen in the past, and what made you first say wow in the AI space?
Sorry, that's to Jeff.
Yeah, that was to Jeff. Sorry, the old AI.
Sorry, thanks, John. It's partly the way I got into travel is, partial of that same answer is I was brought into travel after working in a bunch of different digital tech, having platform expertise, working in deep data-driven solutions. So when I was brought into travel, it was to look at travel, to look at the problems they were trying to solve at Tripian, and think, how could we? Really what it came down to, and I guess this is the old AI brigade, it really came down to data and algorithms. And that's really what have been working with. It's, figuring out how to get good data to make good decisions. And I'm not going to use the word personalization because Christian will jump on us, but it was getting enough data to do things proper, and then having the data that could drive good algorithms, and having those algorithms output, information that was useful, that solved the business need or filled a gap. So it was that combination of innovating to optimize that we were doing in travel at the time.
And Christian, how about yourself? And we don't want to talk about personalization because we said we were not going to talk about personalization. But to talk about your early experience with AI in travel, or even outside of travel, what have you seen from the past that you want to bring back to the present?
Yeah, if we keep mentioning personalization, then we're going to have to talk about it, aren't we? But let's not go there. I don't have any experience in AI. I started with ChatGPT. I obviously knew about AI. I wasn't deeply into it. A lot of people say it's just been a continuation. AI has been around for decades, and it has. But ChatGPT was a step up, and it was a huge step up. And I do look at some of the old guard AI, not picking on Jeff, and people say we've been doing this for decades, and I wonder, are they going to miss the boat? Because it's a new kind of AI. It's completely different, and it's revolutionized. It will revolutionize the industry in ways that AI wasn't ever going to touch. So I'm a newbie in the space.
Okay, and Tony, through your podcast, you've been interviewing lots of different people, and through your newsletter covering a lot of different topics. What have you seen in the past that is relevant to the present and the world we're living in right now.
Yeah, look, I'm very similar to Christian. I was not an AI aficionado. It was something just happened elsewhere, and maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. I wasn't really sure. But the birth of generative AI just brought it to the common man, and so that's kind of what I try and get out of my podcast guests. How can ordinary people who are not overly technical understand what's going on with AI? And for me, the revelation was, I was actually working outside of travel when generative AI came out. I was working in a sports loyalty business, and immediately we saw potential because we were working with sports statistics. And so what we did is we took those live sports statistics and plugged them into ChatGPT, and it told the story of what was happening in the game. And I was like, wow, this thing can tell stories. And as a lifelong storyteller, through my work as a tour guide, or creating itineraries, or building an army of tour guides, I could see immediately this was going to have a massive amount of potential in travel. And so I came back. I came back to travel through AI, and that's why I guess those two things are important to me. But for me, it's about stories, and that's what this thing's powerful. It can communicate, and that's very exciting.
Building off this theme of stories, then, Christian, bring it over back to you. With your background in being sort of not an AI guy, but definitely a travel guy, do you have any interesting stories to tell that you think the generation of tomorrow that's sort of listening to this would want to hear?
Yeah, I mean, my background is in the bus industry, right? Running the double-decker buses. Yeah. Started Magpie after, which is content management. Yeah, for us, that was about writing descriptions and creating this content, which every operator has struggled to do. And I think that there's a lot of spaces in this place. I'm in the experiences space, which is very fragmented, right? A lot of mom and pops. And I think a lot of these people, and Tony knows this space well, is small operators that want to do what they do, whether that's being a speedboat operator or a kayak company, we often call them, and they want to focus on the business. And AI is opening up opportunities to delegate lots of tasks to AI instead of them in the spare time. So for me, that's going to be the big difference in the industry. I'm not convinced the end experience is going to be AI, is going to be delivered by AI products. I think that'll definitely be a piece of it, but I think that's the last piece. I think in the end, we want humans. Humans will be where we want humans, and I think we want human tour guides. We want waiters in restaurants, that sort of thing. So I think
the human experience
is the last. Sorry?
You want the human experience?
Yeah. The human experience with other humans, I think, is going to be fundamental always. I believe, maybe not always, but the AI is in the middle ground, in the background, and there's a huge B2B space in travel, clearly, and I think that's where the AI makes a difference.
Which actually is a good segue to you, Jeff, and more on the B2B side. Where do you see some of that future going in that, as building off what Christian just said?
Yeah, there's kind of two parts. I'll kind of weave what I've seen in the last 6 months to 8 months to where I think we're going in the future. And we'd be having conversations, and Christian's right. It's all about being open-minded and making sure you're keeping an eye on how to use these tools. We'd have conversations with companies 6-8 months ago when some of the AI tools were new, and everybody had their moat. Everybody thought they were going to build the next greatest thing. It was a real big kind of gold rush. Everybody thought they were going to have the next greatest thing, but there was really hesitance to collaborate. Now what we're finding is that in the last few months, we're seeing a greater willingness to collaborate, to work together, to have people take their tools, to use tools to really build business needs and build solutions together. So really changing the way that there's not going to be one winner, but there's going to be a combination. And just taking a word from Gilad Bernstein yesterday, he mentioned that we're in that phase of the great commoditization of AI. And what that means to me is that AI are the new building blocks for the future IP. So for a company to build the strength, to have the position, needs to work with the tools, work with the building blocks of IP to create their differentiation and to create their unique value propositions that the industry needs. And collaboration is the key to get there, I believe.
Yeah, interestingly, I was going to ask you about the great I wrote it down, and you can't see here, but it said the great commoditization of AI, which I thought was a great turn of phrase. Tony, on the collaboration front, so much of your podcast is bringing the industry together. what have you seen in the present? Are we collaborating enough? Do we need to collaborate more? Where do you see things going?
I think collaboration's inevitable because not everyone is going to have the ability to build these tools for their business, and potentially they shouldn't in a lot of cases. And there will be an infrastructure layer that's built for travel, and everyone will be able to utilize it. And I guess that's kind of the journey that Jeff is on from a technical point of view. But in terms of like taking a leadership position, all that requires right now is some action. I consider the past was just the need to be curious, and like we're here as a leadership panel on AI, and two of us have said we don't know anything about AI before 1 year ago. So there was an opportunity for anyone, and there still is an opportunity for everyone to take a leadership position. So like some examples I could talk about that I've been involved in, Arrival, the conference for tours and activities. They did a research project on AI for a customer who was a destination in Europe. So both those organizations are taking leadership positions through those types of actions. Your business, John, apart from you being an AI practitioner, you are sponsoring this conference, you are sponsoring the podcast, you are taking a leadership position. And anybody in any company, I think, can take that leadership position right now by just training their people, understanding it kind of a bit themselves, and then getting into training their people about what's this about. And the benefit they'll get back is time. Every company I've ever worked in, people have said, you say to anyone, how are you going? They go, oh, I'm so busy. Well, we can like really stop that, because most of the stuff that they're busy on is not value work. And that's the potential right now. That's the present. So I'd get involved with that.
So for the future leaders that are out there, I'll stick with you, Tony, on this one. For the future leaders, where should they turn to learn what's coming next? And then we'll actually talk about what's coming next in your all opinions. But where should those future leaders turn to right now?
Yeah, I just think they need to be curious and keep looking for the information. They need to look inside their business and find bottlenecks inside their business that can be potentially fixed quickly with this new technology. That's the real opportunity right now. And once they find that level of curiosity, they'll go searching for more information. And that's what I think that opens up lots of opportunities for other leaders, doing similar things to what Christian and I are doing in terms of sharing, just continually sharing. But like, who's the AI person for hotels? Like I don't know if they exist. Who's the AI person in the Spanish language or the Chinese language? Like those positions are ready to be filled. So people are going to be out there looking for that information, because this is just going to become ubiquitous, and we need people to come and fill those positions. So like, if you're out there, you're listening, you're curious, if you're mid-level in your company, be the AI person in your company. If nobody else is doing it, go and do it. Like, this isn't a thing that the tech team does. Like, this is an everyman product that you can just go in and start getting yourself familiar with and becoming that expert within your business. That's the opportunity for anyone listening out there.
Jeff or Christian, you're both nodding along with that. Do you want to, either of you want to add anything to that statement from Tony?
I'll just jump in quickly and just finishing off on that thought. It's what we do within our company, Tripian, is, like Tony said, is everybody's an advocate. Everybody's doing research. We used to, even a couple of years ago, we'd have a front end team and a back end team and UX and product. Now we have one team. It's really galvanized that, even the team has come together. So the differentiation in roles and expertise is actually becoming less. And it is, becoming everybody getting more familiar with the tool set, everybody being curious, everybody bringing something to the weekly scrums of learnings and trying to get that information out there, because it is moving so fast.
Yeah, I was just going to add that it's a rare moment that you get to be at the forefront of a technology like this. And I was telling my kids, you could be the person in the company now that's talking about AI. You could join a 10,000 person company and become a leader in AI in a short space of time just by grabbing it and running with it. And I think that's a great time to be around.
I made a comment on one of the other sessions this morning about, we had an employee who asked, who applied for an internal posting, a developer had 2 years experience. We're advertising, trying to find a 10-year senior developer. And he says, well, why don't I qualify? I'm using all these tool sets now. I'm doing the work of a 10-year developer. Why don't I qualify for that senior position? And the guy got a raise, because he's kind of right. But it is true. If you are and a young leader in your company, use these tools that are at your disposal now to really show the old guard what is possible. Which kind of leads me into the next chapter, which is one of my sort of favorite areas, which is what's coming up next. And TravelAI is part of the Up Next group, another company I started. We're really looking at the futures of technologies. But what is coming up next in your world? What are you all excited about? Jeff, let's throw it to you first. What are you most excited about that's coming down either the next 6, 12, or 24 months?
I think for me, it's the excitement of seeing the speed at which this innovation is happening. It's all about having that ability to solve problems that 6 months ago we were not. And it's just having those tool sets that, brings that, solving simple problems out of the equation, but being able to solve tougher problems and being able to raise the bar on the difficulty that you're trying to solve and being able to do it rapidly. So I think in 12 months, we'll be solving, the ability to output data and to run an algorithm in, milliseconds that a year ago we couldn't really process. And I think that's going to really change what I'd say. It's going to eliminate what we used to call near real time and bring it almost real time in terms of the type of information that we can present to people.
And Tony, for yourself, what are you most excited about that's going to come in that 6, 12, or 24-month period?
I think there's just been a fascination with travel planning, and this goes in waves because it probably happened a decade ago as well. But there's just so much people inside and outside of travel focusing on travel planning, and I think that is going to cause a revolution. I think in the past, in Web 2, kind of Google sold us this digital customer journey of inspire, plan, book, travel, and then share. But it was always framed as a moment in time. That you go, you do that, and you do your planning, and that's your planning for your trip, and then you book it, and then you go on your trip. But the reality is that you actually go through that cycle scores, if not hundreds of times for any one trip. And the most fervent part of that is actually when you're traveling, because you've got gaps in your trip and you're inspiring yourself to what you're going to do, what am I going to eat for lunch, And I think this is where this technology is going to play a huge part. And, I think that's kind of some of the stuff that Jeff's working on talking about there, about that real moment. And there's going to be an opportunity for someone to be an infrastructure layer for basically the entire industry, to have people get the knowledge that they want at the moment that they want it. I know Christian doesn't like personalization, but I started at the beginning talking about this tool can communicate. So that's the power of this tool. If you want to know what a person's thinking right now, ask them. And that's what this technology gives you the opportunity to do. You can ask that customer, hey, it's 11 a.m. I guess you're feeling hungry. You're looking for somewhere to eat right now, and come back with the perfect personalized recommendation for that person that's in the vicinity of them. And that's something that we don't have now. And that layer will be there, and any brand that touches the customer at any point will have the opportunity to get the kudos for giving those recommendations by picking up that type of technology. And that's going to happen. That is going to happen. So, it's up to everybody to jump in and be ready for it.
And Christian, we'll throw it back to you in sort of the last few minutes here about what are you excited about in the next 6 to 12 to 24 months?
Yeah. I'll just touch on personalization since it's been mentioned. I love that kind of personalization. What winds me up is everybody talking about using 10-year-old expired consumer data to try and feed you the right product at the right time because they knew about a trip you took, 7 years ago before you were married and before you had. I think that on the fly using an LLM for personalization is where it's at. But just a theoretical sort of answer to that. I love the concept of data compression, which sounds awful, doesn't it? But as humans, we walk through life. We wake up in the morning looking at our phones and we read words. We listen to a podcast. We listen to the radio. We watch videos. We're consuming data all day long. And then in our work days, we compress that in our heads and we give it to the next person in the meeting. And then that next person has a meeting with the other person. And we're all consuming data, compressing it and handing it off to the next. How companies operate, sometimes that data may get touched 10 times before someone actually posts something on Instagram at the end. And I think we have to face the fact that now we've created a machine that can compress data better than we can. It can use language better than we can. So all of those tasks, which include compressing data, which is most of what we do, is potentially replaceable by an LLM. not today, not to that level, but that's coming, right? I think all of these tasks, and it's these white collar jobs that we all thought were going to be irreplaceable, which are going to start disappearing. They'll be replaced with other jobs, I'm sure, at least for a short term. But that's an interesting concept to me, especially now with multimodal and these visual models that are out, especially what we saw last week with Sora. It's moving so quickly, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
and on the previous panel, actually, no, it was Michael Goldrich who pointed in two panels ago, is that anything you see today, this is as bad as it's ever going to get. Like, I mean, or if you're complete dispassionate, think that AI is going to destroy the world, and you think this is going to get absolutely horrible. And my wife sometimes thinks that, but really, the technology you see today, the personalization you see today, all those things are really is the worst it's going to get, and really the future and what we can create together is, well, frankly, it's why we're all here today. So I know we're off time here, but we're running out of time. Any final thoughts in the last sort of 30 seconds? I was going to ask for the best day ever to go back to your roots there, Tony. But I'll look for one final thought about what people have to be optimistic about in the future. One word answers before we turn off. Tony, what's one word that makes you optimistic for the future?
Action.
Action. Jeff?
Enlightenment.
Enlightenment. Christian?
Curiosity.
Curiosity. Okay, and mine is hope. So with that, we'll sign off. And best places to reach you: LinkedIn, obviously for you, Tony, which is where your community is really developed, or your Slack channel. Jeff and Christian, is it LinkedIn the best place to reach yourselves as well? Yep. Very good to everyone. So thank you very much all for your time and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, John.
And we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks everyone.
Tony. Thanks, Christian.